Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the QBB LSW bonus footage. Alright, let's get on with the questions taken from the QBB LSW video itself. First up is the emblem question with Bloxid's Plox, saying, Pirate Bay emblem? Kind of. This week it was the home taping is Killing Music. It was kind of an audio cassette tape with, it's kind of in a skull and crossbones arrangement, used as an anti-piracy campaign. It was kind of an attempt to discourage people from taping vinyl records and giving them to their friends as mixtapes and stuff like that, which was it wasn't the most effective campaign, which is perhaps why the Pirate Bay use it. That, and of course the Skull and Crossbones has a very sort of pirate thing going on as well. So yes, that is what it was, that is what it is, and I know I said, you know, my emblems might be gaming related, but this one wasn't. Alex Goldie says, what is your personal favourite LMG, Stu? I'm actually not that well informed on the remaining two LMGs. I haven't used them that much. I've used the LSET a bit. I know that I like that. It's kind of a Mark 48 with slightly lower damage and a higher fire rate. And I can dig that. The hammer, I haven't used much at all. So yeah, those last two LMGs, I haven't really got a feel for them yet. So it's only really the QBB and the Mark 48 that I've had a large amount of experience with. Of the two, I've got to say I prefer the Mark 48. I like the damage. I like the fact you can tear through walls through it, and I don't know, I prefer it. The QBB is a terribly effective LMG up close, but I don't know, I like the Mark 48 just because you can just hold the trigger and you can still remain accurate. Chrome Zephyr says, just a tip, Stu, the trophy system does not stop hunter-killer drones. I'm almost certain it does. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of these clips, or maybe one of the clips that I used in the weapon guide itself, there is actually a hunter-killer that gets destroyed by the trophy system. I've seen it happen. Maybe it's dependent on angle. Maybe the incident angle maybe it has to go over the trophy system. Maybe you have to be standing in the right place. I don't know. But it definitely has destroyed one before. It saved my life, I tell you that much. You know, with this class build, I kind of thought to myself, trophy system, it kind of fits, but I don't know if I like it. And then I used it for a little while, especially with fast hands. And I grew to really love the little spinny thingy. It's actually a really useful thing. I mean, its utility is limited to game modes such as Headquarters, Hardpoint, maybe Domination, maybe other modes as well. You need to be able to predict where people are going to throw grenades, basically. But it's complete denial of enemy explosives and of rockets and grenade launchers, everything. It's nice. Lee Duran says, I noticed that you did not have gold. Well, no, not in the clips, no. I recorded pretty much my entire time with the QBB. I think I'd used it a little bit. I used it in some of the attachment guides, and I have used it for fun a little bit as well, just to try and sort of amp up the number of headshots that I had with it. But when it came to actually recording, I think I maybe had about 60 headshots with it, maybe slightly fewer. And I was only about 3/4 of the way through the Thirst Weapon Prestige. So I had to play with it quite a lot, and I recorded most of my time with the QBB, but I had the 150 kills without perks, without attachments left to do to get gold by the time I finished recording. And I thought, you know what, I'm not going to get my best clips without perks, without attachments, so I'm just going to call it a wrap. I've got it, I've got more than enough footage now. So I'm going to call it a wrap. I'm going to get the 150 kills, sans attachment, sans perk, I'm going to guild it, and then I'm going to go to bed. And that's precisely what I did. So yeah, I do have it gold, but I didn't record any gold gameplay because by that point I had more than I was ever going to need. Daniel Saavedra says, have you ever been hacked? Interesting question. Yes, my gamer tag was actually taken from me. When was it? About a year ago? I can't recall. There was a vulnerability in Hotmail. And because my original Microsoft account was linked to my original Hotmail account, the hackers were able to commandeer my Hotmail account from there. Password reset, very, very simple. And of course, you know, yes, they were able to compromise my gamer tag. I know what you're thinking, Stu, why do you use Hotmail? Well, look, this Hotmail account was from 1998. It was my first email account, and it was my Microsoft Passport account. And I think once upon a time, in the early days of the Xbox, you had to have a Microsoft email to actually use Xbox Live. I think they've changed that at some point so you can use any email address, but at the time, back in like 2006, 2007, you had to have a Microsoft email address. So I used my Hotmail account. But it turns out, if you know a couple of bits of information, it's actually surprisingly simple to recover a Hotmail account for yourself, even if you aren't the legitimate owner. Fortunately, Hotmail security is so lax, I was able to recover the account back, at which point I was then able to reset the password on the Xbox gamer tag, and I got it back. And this was all just a few hours after the actual incident occurred. So as soon as I had the account back, of course, I realized that basically, as long as I was using that Hotmail account with my gamer tag, it was completely insecure. So, of course, the logical thing to do is to move to my main email, my Gmail account. And, of course, Google has two-layer authentication, which means any new device attempting to authenticate as me would need access to my mobile phone. And not to mention the fact that Google's security policies are just a whole lot more robust when it comes to password recovery. So yeah, my gamer tag was then associated with my Gmail account, much like my YouTube account, and thanks to Google security policies, it's a lot more secure. I mean, there's no perfect system, of course, but I'm pretty confident that these, so-called hackers are pretty much incapable of breaching my current security measures. So yeah, there you go. Moral of the story: don't use Hotmail on your gamer tag because Hotmail security is terrible. And, well, that's it, really. That's the only moral. I suppose this might be the first any of you have heard of this hacking incident, because I didn't really talk about it at the time. It's because I didn't really want to give any attention to these, these hacker types. Of course, that's why they do it, isn't it? Attention. Makes them feel powerful. But, no, unfortunately, I was able to thwart their attempts and left them rather impotent. I can't even remember what they were called. Some stupid hacker name. But even if I did remember, I wouldn't tell you, because they don't deserve any sort of attention. Alright, next question. MC Quiz 95 says, I'd use tac mask instead of dexterity, because when using an LMG, your ability to fire before the enemy is incredibly important, and it will help when enemies use secondary grenades or shock charges. Apologies for the nerd voice, I don't really mean to disparage. That would be a different class. I know tac mask is a good perk, but I can't recommend it for everything. And I figured with the QBB, because you've got the rate of fire, because you've got the laser sight on there, and the hipfire is actually pretty effective, it doesn't really matter if you're blinded, because you can just pin the trigger, and the odds are you'll score the kill. And besides, when you're using the LMGs in kind of a semi-aggressive way, dexterity becomes much, much more useful. And that's what this class was all about. It was all about getting to the hard point quickly, clearing it quickly as possible, and then locking it down as quickly as possible. It is, like I say, it's kind of an aggressive defensive class, if that makes any sense. Leon Zinho says, Hey Stu, I was wondering, when will you be able to do a game other than Call of Duty on your main or secondary channel? Well, don't tell anyone, but I'm pretty sure my exclusivity contract actually expired sometime in September. Don't tell anyone though. Yeah, so since then I've been able to do Battlefield guides. But don't tell anyone, because all the Battlefield fans will be asking, Stu, can you do Battlefield? No, I can't. I am currently knees deep in Black Ops 2, as you are well aware, and I plan on finishing it before I do anything else. So what's our estimated time of finishing? Probably sometime in the summer, I guess. I don't plan on breaking the weekly schedule, and we've got, 40 guides, maybe 42. So yeah, we're going to get through it pretty quickly. I'm probably going to double up some of the secondaries as well, like I did with the 5.7 and the small. The TAC 45 and FHJ 18. It's likely they'll come together on the same weekend, just because, I mean, the FHJ it's kind of a boring guide that nobody's looking forward to. But I've got to do it because it's a weapon, and because it's an initial unlock, it's unlocked from the start. So I want to do it before I start ratcheting up the unlock ladder. So yeah, I'll slot it in. But yeah, so let's say I finish in the summertime and I've got maybe, 10 weeks? Maybe 8 weeks, 2 months, before the next Call of Duty's coming out. Assuming I'm doing the next Call of Duty for weapon guides. I might not, you never know. So anyway, yeah, let's say I've got 8 weeks. Let's say I take a couple of weeks off. That gives me, 6 weeks for a 6-part series, which is a nice length for a short series. I'm not sure what I'll do. I might do a 6-part series devoted to one game. I might do 6 videos that are completely different. Maybe, you know, maybe a separate game for each video, or maybe just completely off the wall. Maybe I'll spend that time doing Retro Ahoy, or maybe I'll, I don't know. The trouble with Retro Ahoy is the channel isn't established. So, as far as getting the views, as far as making your money, Xbox Ahoy is the channel to go for. So I don't know, it depends. I mean, I'm making the assumption that I'll be doing the next Call of Duty, because let's face it, there is going to be another Call of Duty. It's iDub/Sledgehammer/Raven this time, so it'll probably be a Modern Warfare game. Now, this might very well be the last one of this generation, so I don't know, what do you do? They've done the trilogy, haven't they? So I don't know, maybe a prequel. Maybe they'll expand on one of the characters in the Modern Warfare universe. You see, I always thought the origin story of a character like Simon Riley or Ghost, to give him his cooler nickname, I think that would be pretty cool. So something like Modern Warfare Ghost, or Ghost Story, to give it a puntastic name. Because, I mean, the character, he didn't appear until Modern Warfare 2. So you could kind of interweave it with some of the events of COD 4 and kind of build in the backstory for this character. And I think it would be a pretty satisfying game. I think people are generally pretty hungry for the story of Ghost. There's a lot of unexplored territory there, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. As for the multiplayer, I don't know what direction they're going to take. Maybe they'll remaster COD 4, or maybe they'll bring together like a best of. Maybe, you know, some of the arsenal from COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, bring them all together, some of the best maps, and a dash of new stuff as well, you know, so people don't feel like they're being ripped off. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there, really. Those are my, you know, predictions for the next Call of Duty. To answer your question, when you're going to cover another game, possibly this summer, and if not, I don't know, as situation dictates. I'd like to do other stuff for Xbox Ahoy. I'd especially like to break away from doing like season-long coverage of a game. Instead, like maybe doing one episode per game or a few episodes per game. So I'm not bogged down for 40 weeks covering the same title. I have a vague concept for like a single episode, like a multiplayer guide for any given game. Just sort of like a basic primer. Like a 10-15 minute intro to the game. Like you watch that video and you're set for your first few games on Xbox Live. I think there's some utility in that, and I think you could probably do it with a bit of a LAN too. And I could do a different game every week, which would, you know, it would keep things fresh at least, and I could sort of stay abreast of new releases. The only trouble with that is I'd have to get good at a whole bunch of different games. Anyway, moving on. The Brick Stuff House says, "Hey Stu, are you enjoying the snow in the UK at the moment?" Well, we had a smattering here in Manchester, maybe a couple of inches, but now it's all melted. So, yeah, I am enjoying it. I'm glad it's gone. But one says, "Hey Stu, are you a fan of the Fallout series of games? And which is your favourite?" I am a fan, yes. Of all of the Fallout games, I've got to say I actually prefer the new ones to the older ones. I mean, the older ones, you've got to respect the classics. But I think if you take away the nostalgia goggles and if you frame things in the context of you know, the sort of the here and now, I do much prefer the modern ones, Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Of those two, which is my favourite? Well, I like elements from both. But overall, I think for just for slightly better polish and maybe, I don't know, just a bit more togetherness, I'm going to have to say Fallout 3. The Rainmaker257 says, "Hey Stu, what's your favourite German beer?" There are a few areas that I'd like to explore in more detail of German brewing. I feel as though I need to explore the darker German offerings, the Dunkels, the Schwarzbiers. The majority of my experience with German beers is with the Hefeweizens. Of those, one of my favourite go-tos is probably Franziskaner. It wins by virtue of the fact that it's actually pretty gosh darn delicious, and I like, you know, it's got the whole banana and clove thing going on in perfect unison. And it's also reasonably commonly available. I can get it in Tesco, for instance, which means I've drank more than my fair share of it over the years. I can appreciate it's maybe not the one held in the highest regard. I have had other ones. I can't bring them to mind, though. It's been a while. I remember liking Schneiderweiser, and I've actually Weihenstephaner. I've had a few of those. I've got to say, I think I do prefer Franziskaner to Weihenstephaner. Weinstefano is often cited as the #1 Hefeweizen, but I don't know. I think it's a bit too much clove and not enough banana, whereas Franziskaner, all banana, and I like that. The Dodo Killer HD says, noticed you were playing Euro Truck Simulator 2 on Steam, and you spent a few hours on Train Simulator 2013. Are you enjoying them? Well, it looks like someone's been snooping about on my Steam profile. Anyways, I actually, when did I buy it? I bought Euro Truck Simulator, I think it was last Friday, on the same day that the QBB video went out. Thus far, I have 18 hours played on it. I don't know why, but there's something fundamentally satisfying about driving across the continent. The graphics are surprisingly nice, the handling is tight, you've got truck customization up the wazoo, and you've got a really solid metagame. You actually level up and unlock stuff as you drive and perform jobs. There's even a business management aspect. You can actually hire drivers and form like your own trucking company. The game is huge in scope, and it's the actual world is surprisingly detailed. I mean, Manchester, for instance, has the recently constructed Beetham Tower. So yeah, it's a thoroughly enjoyable game, and it's remarkably well polished. And I recommend that anybody who has a penchant for simulators and has £22 or whatever the equivalent is in dollars or euros, I recommend you pick it up. I might actually, I don't know, I was thinking about doing a video on it. Trucking with Stu. Maybe record a live commentary as I travel from, I don't know, somewhere like, maybe from Aberdeen to the Czech Republic, you know, go for one of the longer drives. It's a game fraught with challenges, you know. You've got to drive on the left in the UK and the right on the continent. You've got toll gates, you've got traffic jams, you've got traffic lights, you've got speed limits, slip roads. You've got to make sure you don't run out of fuel. You've got to make sure you don't get too tired. You've got a whole host of challenges continually coming at you. Oh, I think it'll make for quite a good video anyway. Alright, let's rapid fire some. Yo-Yo0639 says, Stuart, have you ever tried any Austrian beer? Yes, one comes to mind, Urbock 23 degrees. Pretty strong, hell of a beer. iBeezy says, Stu, do you think Sony Vegas is better than Premiere Pro? Different strokes for different folks on different workflows. I believe Vegas is better if you're using different formats. Premiere is better if you have a single format workflow. But both are good, and Vegas is what I know. Dave Bennett says, Stu, what is your supermarket of choice when shopping here in the UK? I actually get the majority of my groceries not from a supermarket, but from organic supplier Abel & Cole. They do subscription deliveries, which means I don't even have to think about buying groceries, they just turn up every Monday. The Art of War says, The Art of War is a Japanese book, you ignorant. I have not the words. I hope you're trolling. That's all I'm going to say. Joseph Perslow says, Stu, what is your favourite filling of a proper English pie? All pie is good pie, but I like a solid meat and potato pie. Probably the Lancastrian in me. Basically hot pot and pastry. Mind you, the Prestonian in me would say the esoteric butter pie, which isn't what it sounds like. Make me a sandwich, says, so, Stu, do you suffer from OCD? Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Mr. NM28 says, Stu, do you use a SCUF controller? No, I use a stock Xbox controller. I'm sure the SCUFs are very nice, but I'm not paying that much for a controller. Etienne Levinson says, what sensitivity do you play on, Stu? I get asked this a lot. It used to be default, but I've actually changed it. I play on one above default now, which on Black Ops 2 is 6. The Ultimate Zealot says, I just want to point out that the QBB LSW, really an upgraded QBB 95, was introduced in 1997, not 2025. Yeah, but if you look at it, it's clearly the LSW variant to the Type 25, and given that the Type 25 must have been introduced in 2025, just like the Type 95 was introduced in 1995, then the QBB variant of the Type 25 must also have been introduced in 2025 or slightly later. So I guess it would be, in theory, it would be the QBB 25. It's a made-up weapon. I can make up dates, it's fine. Anyway, that is the end of the clip, so I shall leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I shall see you on Friday for the DSR 50 guide. And until then, farewell.